The core loop of game development is creating an asset, editing it to your specification, putting it in your room, and trying your game out. So let's break down what some of the most popular assets are, how to edit them, and how it all fits together. To create an asset in GameMaker, there are several different ways. The first is to come over to the group with the named asset you want to make, like an object, room, or sprite, right-click on it, and the very top option is Create. Now, you can put any kind of asset in any kind of group. So, if I want to create a sprite, I'll come down and find Sprite, and click on it, and that will create a sprite. Another way to create an asset is to come up here and find the little plus icon. You can click on this, and it actually has all of the assets available. So if I wanted to create another sprite, I could click on that, and I can type in as many as I want. So if I wanted 10 sprites for my game, click Create, it will make all 10 of them right there. And the last way to create an asset is to right-click on a workspace background and go to Assets, and you can create anything right here. So if I wanted to create an object, I can do that, and there's my object. Sprites are a 2D image. They can either be a single frame to just be one image, or they can be multiple frames that move back to back to back and play quickly to create the illusion of motion. In GameMaker, we can create sprites by coming over to any of these groups. I'm going to go ahead and click on the Sprites group, right-click, go to Create, and down near the bottom is a Sprite option. If I click on this, it creates a sprite for me, and GameMaker has already named it Sprite 1. GameMaker has its own image editor that allows you to create, edit, and animate sprites for your game. To access it, you just need to go into one of your sprites, double-click on that asset, and this opens up the sprite editor window. Click on Edit Image, and we are now inside of the image editor. We have our own tab up here with the name of our sprite, and we can switch back to our workspace at any time. From here, we can choose a brush, a color, and a tool, and start drawing and creating our own sprites. You can animate your creation by adding more frames to it, and you can do pretty much anything you need to do right here in GameMaker. To view a really nice animated sprite, let's check this one out that I pulled from the Towers vs. Monsters template. And then if I press this play icon, I can actually see it animating right here. In GameMaker, every sprite has properties associated with it that you'll need to control and edit to make your game exactly the way you want. To access those settings, let's go and find a sprite, like this sprite from the Towers vs. Monsters template. Double-click on it, and this opens up the sprite editor. From here, we can control things like the name of our sprite, the animation speed, the origin. We can edit the image and open up the image editor. We can import a brand new sprite to override this one. We can control the texture settings, the collision mask. If we want to use 9-slice on this sprite, we can view all of the frames down here and actually move them around if you wanted to. You can add a broadcast message, and you can view the animation right here. Objects are the lifeblood in GameMaker. They're going to run the code and do everything that you can interact with inside of your game. Take a look at this game, Archvale, made in GameMaker. Everything right here, that's an object. Everything right here, those are objects. To create an object in GameMaker, let's go over to the Objects group, right-click, under Create, find Object near the top. Click on that, and that creates your object and calls it Object 1. From here, we can rename it, give it a sprite, and control everything else about it, including putting our code inside of it. In GameMaker, every object has a lot of properties that you can control. To access and edit them, we're going to go into the Object Editor. Find an object and double-click on it. This opens up the Object Editor. From here, we can control things like the name, the sprite the object will show, the collision mask that that object is using, whether it's visible, solid, persistent, or uses physics, the events window, the parent controls, the physics properties, and the variable definitions if we're going to be using any of those. All of that is available to use inside of the object editor, and you can resize and drag around your objects inside of your workspace as well. Rooms in GameMaker are probably something you know by another name called levels. Imagine any time you're playing a game that you switch to a new location, an interior, exterior, or a whole new world, or maybe even a menu. Each of these is a level, or what GameMaker calls them, rooms. Rooms are an asset just like sprites, objects, and everything else. To create a room, let's go over to the asset browser on the right click on the rooms group, on create, go down and find room. This will create a new room for you. On every GameMaker project, there's already a room 1. So, by making another one, we now have a room called room 2. And it has opened up a new tab for us at the top. So to switch between rooms and workspaces, you just click between these tabs right here. The room editor in GameMaker is where you'll be creating the rooms that you play your game in. To open it up and explore it, let's go over to rooms. For this example, I'm going to be using the rooms from the Monsters vs. Towers template. And I have a room called room level 1. Double click on it, and it will open up this room editor for you. At the top, it opens up a new tab. This one's called room level 1, and the workspace is right over here, and you can switch between them. There are two main sections. You have the information section on the left, and then the room editor itself in the middle. So let's take a look at the left first. This controls all the layers. Layers are where you put your assets in GameMaker. Things like objects, sprites, and so on. There are many different layers, and each one can hold a specific kind of asset. If you click on one, you can see everything that's inside of there. This is a room from the Towers vs. Monster full game, and you can see it's already fully designed and set up. So under the instances layer, there are lots of trees and houses and graveyards and so on. To view the properties of the room, let's go and click on the room itself in the asset browser, and then the inspector shows us those properties. Things like persistent, the width, height, creation code, instance creation order, viewports and cameras, and room physics. And then this middle section is for all of the objects, sprites, and other things you want to put inside of your level. To navigate it, we have the controls up here. We can turn the grid on and off, we can zoom out, we can reset the zoom, and we can zoom in. We can also do that with the middle mouse wheel. We can click and drag to move it around. We can hold control and middle mouse wheel to go in and out. And this button right here is center fit, which takes your entire room and puts it right in the center so it'll fit inside of your view. Then you can also show the views, play any animations that are live inside of your room, and be able to select from any layer with this toggle right here. And that's the basics of the room editor. Tilesets in GameMaker is an asset that's made up of many different sprites. Each one is a small section that comes together to form a graphical resource that allows you to create and edit levels really quickly. To show you what I'm talking about, let's take a look at one of the Windy Woods tile sets, this one called TS World. If we view this, we can see that each one of these little white squares is actually a unique sprite that we would call a tile. And when you put all of them together, it becomes a tile set. To view this tile set in action, let's open up the first level of Windy Woods. And you can see that this tile set is used all over the place. The entire ground, the water is a different tile set, and even the background in the underground cavern sections is a tile set. Tile sets are very powerful and allow you to edit and create lots of levels in a short amount of time. To create your own tile set, click on the tile set group, right click, create, and go down to tile set, the second to last option. When you do that, it creates it, gives it a tile set name for you, and from here, you can edit and create your own tile set to be used in your game. To control the settings of the tile sets in your game, you need to use the tile set editor. Let's jump over to tile sets, and I have tileset 1 created right here. By default, it has nothing associated with it. To use a tileset, you need to have a sprite. So I'm going to click on select sprite and then navigate to wherever you've got your sprite that you want to use for your tileset. This is the tileset from Hero's Journey, a project that you can download on GameMaker. Inside of here, we now have the properties over on the right. We have things like the width, height, offset, separation, and border. So tilesets can come in many different sizes. That means that the set that it comes in as 16 by 16 might not actually be right. These ones are actually 64 by 64 in size. By changing those numbers, we now have our tileset matching up correctly here. The tile editor also provides things like the brush builder, where you can create custom brushes for even faster room editing. Tile animation, where if you have animated tiles like flickering torches or moving water, you can create little animations for those. There's also auto tiling, which allows for even faster room creation under specific circumstances when you have the right tile sets. All of these properties are available in the tileset editor here. And when you're ready to make a tileset, bring it in, adjust the properties to fit, and you'll be ready to go.